Alabama's got some more nominees for the College Football Hall of Fame. There are two no-brainers and one literal no-brainer.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. We'll talk about Monarch Money in just a bit. Thank you, everydayers, for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen every single day. You guys are the best. Jimmy, the College Football Hall of Fame list has come out, or nominees.
You been there?
Yes, I have been there. In Atlanta, it's great.
Yeah, I've never been there. That's what I was going to ask. I thought you had. I thought I recollected you had. Cool.
It is. It's awesome. I would highly recommend it for college football fans. It's awesome. It wasn't quite as awesome as I wanted it to be.
Is it downtown Atlanta?
It's near the, if I remember right, it's near the Mercedes Dome, kind of.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
But anyway, two guys for Alabama are in there. First of all, Mark Ingram. I mean,
slam dunk.
The easy as pie, no doubter. Heisman Trophy winner, led Alabama to a national championship, helped lead Alabama to its resurgence. MVP of the national championship game, MVP of an SEC title game.
Still significant in college football. When you're a part of Big Noon Kickoff, the second biggest morning show of college football, but he's on that panel with Coach Meyer and Brady Quinn and those guys. I watch ESPN myself, but but he's still highly relevant to college football in that role.
Yeah. And he's just a dude, and I don't think there's any way he doesn't get on. Right?
Yeah. I don't know about first ballot stuff. And of course, there's also, I don't know how many. I know some vague guidelines as to how they do this. Number one of which is I don't believe they ever there's so many good candidates all over. They don't like to bring in more than one guy from one school. Like, for instance, there's not going to be two Alabama guys that not in one class. That's one rule. Now he could make it the very next year. But that's one rule I'm aware of, or at least a guideline. I don't know what all the guidelines are, but I do know also this: they're big on accolades, and by that I mean I think you have to be an All-American.
You do.
You have to have been an All-American.
At least one service or something.
Yeah. There's stuff like that, and other decorations look good on your plaque if you won the Outland or the Butkus or whatever, the Thorpe Award, and in Mark's case, the Doak Walker Award. I think Mark's just in though. Heisman it just absolutely. I mean, that's the cherry on the sundae, right?
Yeah, and then there's one that's a little more complicated to me, and that's Demeco Ryans.
Is it because Alabama wasn't winning much when he was here? Great player and an All-American. But
and that may bolster his case.
Alabama wasn't winning before.
Because they weren't winning and he was so awesome, maybe that helps him out. And
there's NFL fans that don't put two and two together and know that Demeco played football at Alabama.
Yeah, because we were sort of a non-factor for the most time he was here. Now, in 05, we had a nice little thing going. And,
defense was actually really good. As a matter of fact, the 04 and 05 defenses statistically stand up to Saban defenses. They really do in terms of yards and points. The 04 and 05 defenses were good. Just the offenses during that period of time were dreadful.
I'll read a couple of the reasons Demeco Ryans could get in. And then I want to talk about a few of the other guys. And I got to talk about one other guy that's nominated that makes me I'm like, what the heck? All right. So Demeco Ryans, 2005 unanimous first team All-American, winner of the Lot Impact Trophy. National Scholar Athlete in 2005, finalist for the Butker and Nagurski, but he didn't win either one of them. 2005 SEC Player of the Year defensively. Single game record, I didn't know this, for tackles against Arkansas, and that was in 2003 with 25.
That's a lot of tackles.
A lot of tackles. And
That's
ranks
two.
fifth in
That's
tied
two
history.
good games. That's two good games.
Yeah, and ranks fifth in tied history with 309 tackles.
Awesome.
Look, obviously, if I were voting, I'd probably say yes. But I think that I think it's going to be a tough pull when you look at some of the other guys that are nominated. For instance, Simeon Rice, who was
he's getting in,
dude. Antoine Randall L, another dude.
He's getting
Ken
in.
Norton Jr. back in '87. This is back when I was really, getting into college football for real.
UCLA.
Dude. Cam Newton, no brainer.
Wow, he's in.
Terrence Newman, that one, he to me is like Demeco Ryans.
Can the college football playoff people, when they send something to Cam saying, "Cam, yeah, you're in the Hall of Fame, congratulations," could you tone it down a little bit when when you come to the ceremony, just kind of back it off about 17 notches?
Yeah, I mean, try to wear a hat with a top on it. He loves to wear a hat that's like cut out on the top and all the hair comes out. It's kind of funky looking. Marshawn Lynch, that's a Demeco Ryans to me. Marshawn Lynch, everybody remembers him for the Seahawks. Nobody really remembers him for California. He was good. He was the Pac-10 Offensive Player of the Year. But he led the league in rushing that year with 1,356. That's sort of that's nice. It's nice. It's not Todd Light, who a lot of people may not remember. I do. I think Ryan Leaf. I think Ryan Leaf may be an actual no-brainer. People may think I'm crazy because
he's probably in. I mean, he transformed an entire season of college football by making Washington State so Rose Bowl relevant.
God, Percy Harvin, again, I say no-brainer. Marvin Harrison's on here, but much more known for NFL versus so DeBrickashaw Ferguson. I mean, if there was a name Hall of Fame, he's in it. Aaron Donald, again, much more known for NFL.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think Demeco's going to have trouble. I think Mark Ingram's in, and I don't think there's any question. And I think Demeco not going to make it this time. What may help Demeco, and it's not supposed to factor in, and I doubt it really does, but I wonder if he keeps having success in the NFL as a coach. I wonder if that name recognition helps him out at all.
I think it does. It's one of the most interesting things to me about College Football Hall of Fame. Here's one. I think he's the perfect example. To me, slam dunk College Football Hall of Fame is A.J. McCarron. Slam dunk. Yeah. He's got to be. He's a quarterback, two-time national champion, major award winner, won the Maxwell, set every school record there is, was a fixture in the two-team playoff era, winningest guy ever.
Close to winning 3 in a row.
But had very little pro success, more than some people know, but very little pro success. And you wonder if that hurts his candidacy. That's kind of crazy to me. On the other hand, some players, Tyreek Hill played at freaking Livingston and is one of the great, and he's going to be a pro football Hall of Fame guy. And he played college football primarily at Livingston. So, that's the opposite of what the AJ case is that Tyreek Hill has no chance at the College Football Hall of Fame, but his first ballot pro football.
Yeah, it is interesting because I think you do have to separate the two.
Yeah, you have to. That's why you got to put AJ in. But some people might not be able to separate the two.
I know. You got to separate them, but again, and it may help in some cases, and it may hurt in other cases. Marvin Harrison, great receiver at Syracuse. I remember him vividly, and I remember him well, but a lot better in the pros. A lot better. Aaron Donald, great player at Pittsburgh, really good. In the pros, he's an all-time.
Even better. Just like Demeco, I think if you ask pro football NFL fans that aren't hardcore college fans, but NFL fans, where did Demeco Ryans go to college? Where did Aaron Donald go to college? You're probably getting about the same hit rate.
Yeah.
In terms of who can name both.
Yep. Okay. Then you come to Dennis Franchione. And look, I'm going to read his accolades before
you even read it. I don't even know. But I assume this has to do with what happened at Pittsburgh State, right?
Well,
that's why he would be a candidate, because of what happened at the NAIA level or Division III, whatever that is. But I would think he didn't do anything at Alabama or A&M to justify this.
Two-time NAIA National Coach of the Year before moving into Division I. twice coaching at Texas State, and eventually leading the Bobcats' transition to FBS. Known for revitalizing struggling programs, led New Mexico to its first bowl in 36 years, TCU to its first postseason win since 1957. Took over a 3-8 Alabama team and led the Tide to a 10-win season in just 2 years, later guiding A&M to consecutive victories over arch rival Texas in 06 and 07, and a berth in the Cotton Bowl in 2005. Hey, great. You also got slapped around 77-0 by Oklahoma. I think that disqualifies you to begin with. Secondly, I think your voice disqualifies you. Yeah, I'm not sound like the Vienna Boys Choir over here either, but at least I don't sound like I have a handkerchief permanently glued to my nose.
There's a whole choir dedicated to those sausage things.
But, and then just the, I mean, look, yeah, I agree. He can turn some programs around. He did some good things.
This has to be because of the national titles at the NAI level.
And
I mean,
again,
that's the only way to justify that.
Congratulations on that. But I don't know. I mean, I think that he should not get in. And again, maybe I'm biased. Maybe I just don't like the guy because of the way he left Alabama. I mean, I'll tell you what. If anything, I think Ryder Mike should get in for propping Franchione up some. I mean, because there was nobody that was a bigger cheerleader for Dennis Franchione than Ryder Mike, who I'm not sure existed. It might have been Ms. Franchione.
He put the prop in propaganda.
But
here's one thing about Fran that gets Luke so upset and so many Alabama fans upset. And yeah, I got a little burr in my saddle over it. Things were going well when he left. That's why people were so upset. Alabama fans didn't want him to leave. At that time, things were going well, all things considered. Alabama didn't want him to leave. They were giving him a raise and trying to get him to stay. Alabama fans didn't want him to, but the moment he left, and then Alabama fans taking Schadenfreude in the disaster at Texas A&M. But I think that's all painted things. But what a lot of Alabama fans, especially those too young, there's only been here for the Saban era, don't know is, I mean, when Fran left Alabama for A&M, the day before he left, if you'd have taken a poll, his approval rating among Alabama fans was very high.
Agreed. And not only that, Jimmy, he went to Oklahoma, and I went to Oklahoma that year to watch us play. And we were on the cusp of beating Oklahoma, who was awesome at the time. Nobody thought we
top five. They were a top 5 type program.
Then we lose to Georgia in one of the best games in Bryant-Denny history.
Loudest I ever heard the stadium was Charlie Pepper's interception.
Charlie Pepper's interception was so glorious
against Georgia. I know people. There's always recency bias when people come up with when's the loudest you ever heard that, and everybody comes up with what happened last year. But boy, that jumps out at me is the Pepper interception against Georgia in 02.
05 Brody to Prothrow was also pretty loud.
That was also extremely loud.
But okay. And then I'll tell you what, and we weren't going to a bowl game that year, right? I mean, we couldn't go to a bowl game.
We were ineligible. We were playing Hawaii at the end of the year for a fake bowl game. It was a fake bowl game.
Okay.
We came up with.
And all he had to do was beat an Auburn team that was down to his 4th running back.
Yeah.
And he already had one foot out the door. Nobody knew it.
There are so rarely upsets in the bowl game, but that's what I remember about Fran. 2 years here, both outcomes of the Iron Bowl were crazy. We had no business beating them in 01, and we drilled them at Auburn, drilled them when we had no business winning the game. And in 02, Alabama should have won the game and inexplicably lost. I mean, that's very Fran to get, because there's not a lot of upsets in the Iron Bowl. Every year when I'm called and I do interviews or even national things, and it's the first thing I bring up is what a lot of people around the country don't know about that game is usually, almost always, the best team wins that game. Because people like to say, you can throw the record books out. That's not true at Alabama Auburn. You better keep the record book. There's a good chance it's going to tell you who's going to win the game.
And it may be strange, but you're right.
Yes.
The favored team does normally win.
Mm-hmm. Not always.
Now I want to tell everybody about Monarch Money. Look, you ever checked your bank account and wondered, hey, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one little old place on your phone. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word, LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year at Monarch Money. Okay, so some recruiting stuff still coming in. Jimmy, the reaction from this past weekend, frankly, is glorious. I mean, it's
pretty glorious.
It's pretty awesome.
They do such a good job in those visits. I give Courtney, it's Courtney's staff, but I mean, I give them a lot of credit for building an official visit weekend that gets this level of rave reviews. Everybody has a good. I know some Auburn fans listen. Everybody likes their official visit. That's true. People that took an official visit this weekend to UTEP are like, man, that was fun. That was so
They set the bar really high. Everybody says they set the bar.
Yeah. But look at what the kids say that they don't have to say. To me, the reviews are above and beyond, and we clearly do a great job in building those official visit weekends under this staff.
Yeah, very excited for that. And the reactions keep pouring in. We'll probably sneak some of those in, but I think Jimmy and I want to move on because that's what you do in recruiting. You move on to the next weekend.
Next group. And
as good as last weekend was, I'm not sure this weekend isn't even better. Listen to who's coming in. Jordan Edmonds, who's committed to Bama. Jamarian Matthews, who's committed to Bama. Kamarian Johnson, who's committed to Bama. But then you've got Xavier Griffin a few weeks away from his commitment. Jeriah Edwards, who is from St. Francis Academy in Baltimore. He just went to Auburn, again, said set the bar really high. But a Rivals writer has just crystal balled him to Alabama, just letting you know this guy's a dude. Yeah. Derek Cooper, who's another running back out of Miami. Then Caden Prothro, who's a fabulous tight end out of Georgia, who ultimately will commit to Georgia, is my take. Jaquez Wilkes, Jimmy and I love him, from Wadley, Alabama. Matt Ponatowski, who is right up there with Jet Tamala in terms of number 9, number 10 QB in the country. He's out of Cincinnati. We've talked about him before. Samuelu Utu, who is from Orange, California, a big offensive lineman. Kamari Brooks, who's an edge from Georgia. And Brian Williams Jr., who is a wide receiver from Florida. Now, he's the only 3-star coming in this weekend. Here's something else that's interesting. Give Andrew Bone credit from Bama Online. FSU commit Darrell Bell, who I think was at Auburn this past weekend. He was supposed to come. He's no longer going to come. Yeah. And I thought this was very telling. Make your own assumptions. But Andrew says, we at Bama Online previously noted Alabama had slowed its recruitment of Bell after only visiting him once for about 15 minutes during the spring contact period. Yep. That is telling to me, but I'm not going to say what I think out loud.
Well, first of all, Alabama probably wants 2 safeties in this group. And one of them, they would love for one of them to be either Jet Washington or Jeriah Edwards. And I know people say, why don't you get 2? Well, first of all, it's extremely difficult to sign 2 5-star type players at the same position. That's just difficult, period. And secondly, in the NIL era, it's also semi-impossible. So you don't want to, for instance, blow the entire budget on 2 safeties when you could just get one very pricey one, another very good one. So I also think that Alabama just sort of has a good idea of what's going to go on at safety, and that has some level of factor. But that guy wasn't a super high priority guy for Alabama really from the jump. So that's not that big of a quote loss. This is just what happens when you're setting up official visits. I mean, it's got to be a 2-way street. Official visits are basically we are really interested in you, and the kid has to be really interested in Alabama for an official visit to happen. There used to be a lot more limits as to how, numbers wise that you could have. That doesn't really exist anymore, but that part of it hasn't changed for official visits to happen. This is for serious dating. This is not the buffet. This isn't, hey, let's go out to the club Friday night and see who we can hook up with. No, this is the serious dating situation for official visits. Two-way street. We like you, you like us.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you here. But going back to this upcoming weekend,
yep.
And then you think about guys like, for instance, Jeriah Edwards, who, as I just said, was crystal ball to Alabama, and he's got a commitment coming up shortly. I mean, very shortly. And I feel like you get him on board. And then there's another guy, by the way, that Andrew Bone brought up, Jacob Eberhardt, who is fluctuating between 4-star, 3-star, and good athlete player out of the Missouri area. And, maybe my bet is you don't end up with Jet and with Jeriah. You end up with probably one of the two, and then you get an Eberhard or something like that.
And let's remember this for longtime listeners of the show. Y'all might remember before the staff went out on the road for the evaluation period, we talked about how every year they find kids during the evaluation period we have not talked about before that aren't on rankings, but they're going to these high schools. They're evaluating them in person. It happened with Keelan Russell the year before. Eberhardt's one of these guys that happened for him this year during the spring. We saw him on a school visit and like, hey, this kid, we kind of like the fit here. He was an evaluation period new name, and they like him a ton, and it looks exactly right. If you just get one of Edwards from Maryland or Jet Washington from Nevada, you just get one. You've hit a home run at safety when the goal is to sign, two.
You got a 5-star. And then you get a kid like Eberhardt, who you're taking. I mean, I hate to say a flyer because some people have him in the top 200 in the country, but it's more of a flyer on paper than Edwards or Washington. So, I'm down with all that. And look, we're going to keep talking about these recruits coming in this weekend because this is another monster weekend. And there are people in our comments, by the way, Jimmy, that keep saying, hey, it's awesome y'all are talking about recruiting, but until we get commits and, what does it matter? Now, there's some people even say until they sign, what does it matter? That's true. It's true in both counts. But, man, the vibe is recruiting is going incredibly well.
No different than what happened last year. Where we're at right now today is absolutely no different than where Alabama was 1 year ago, and they ended up ultimately with the number 3 class. I think Alabama is dead on track to finish somewhere in that area. Maybe as high as 1, maybe as low as 5, but I think Alabama is on track to do something extremely similar to what they did a year ago, which is fantastic.
Roster ranking countdown, so popular, is still going strong. Jimmy, you're up to Caden Jones, I believe.
That's right, 58. 58 today is 58 days until the start of fall camp. That's what we're counting down to. So the 58th ranked player on the roster is Caden Jones. Boy, here's another guy to watch this fall, but really watch for him in the spring of 26, because I think Caden Jones is a good chance this is a future starter at Alabama. Very impressive last year as a true freshman. Again, you look at him and you're like, wow, I mean, this is a guy that you should redshirt and put on the shelf. But Caden Jones was very impressive all year long in special teams role. They liked him right off the bat. There's some real versatility here as a player because he's equally good against the pass and the run. Smart kid, great family. I mean, this is a guy to watch. Here's an interesting position battle, Luke. Off the grid. You have to be a hardcore Alabama fan. Pay attention to this. The casual media, they're watching who's going to start. Here's an interesting. Who's going to be the 4th inside linebacker? Because 3 guys are going to play almost all the snaps when it matters. Justin Jefferson, Deontay Lawson, Nikhai Hill-Green. They're going to play all of the snaps when it really matters. But here's why the 4th inside linebacker is important. That guy's probably not going to play a ton, but that person's the leader in the clubhouse to be the number 1 dog next spring, because you're losing all those guys. You're losing Lawson, Jefferson, and Hill-Green. They're all gone after this year. So whoever that 4th inside linebacker is, that's critical because that guy goes into next spring as not only a first-team player, but the leader to be the big dog in the room. So guys like Caden Jones, QB Reese, Luke Metz, Duke Williams, they're all in kind of contention for that role. And true freshmen coming in, like a Sincere Johnson is a name, for instance, who was here this past weekend, eyeing that. That's what they're selling Sincere on, is, hey, we're losing all three of our inside linebackers that they're going to play this fall. He knows this, and that's one of the many reasons Alabama stands a good chance against Ohio State there. But Caden Jones, one to watch this fall. We'll be talking about it on the show because we're hardcore here. We're not the casuals. We're going to be who's the fourth inside linebacker. Pretty critical, not so much for the fall of 25, but for the future of the program.
Speaking of Sincere Johnson, I feel better about his chances. I mean, instead of 49.5, like I said earlier, I'm at 49.9. And I mean, still, you got to give Ohio State the nod at 50.1 just because of where they are. But I feel better.
I would boost it up. I mean, I think he's got a natural affinity for his favorite, but can't help but wonder. I wonder if this is the better decision for me. Hey, Alabama's lost guys. Same argument where I grew up an Alabama fan. This is going to kill me, but such and such might be a better situation for me. And Alabama's lost guys. Here's one you might win on that same thing where Sincere's like, obviously they develop guys at my position. My defensive coordinator is an inside linebacker guy. I get coached by Chuck Morrell and Kane Womack, at this spot. And as a true freshman, there is a golden opportunity to get on the field. Maybe at my favorite, there's not. My favorite, I might have to wait a little bit, but in Tuscaloosa, I might be able to go day one.
Finally, Jimmy, I think that we got to talk about, even though Alabama's not involved anymore, the baseball situation. SEC, boy, Danny Cannell has got to be, just spinning in his grave in a positive way. I know he's not dead, but LSU was taken to the brink. Ole Miss loses to Murray State. Oh my God!
Vanderbilt losing ultimately to Louisville.
Losing, and then here's the other problem I have: you got Arkansas and Tennessee are playing each other for the right to go to the college.
So there can be only a max of 3 SEC teams in Omaha, whereas 5 or 6 looked like a good bet. The day that the brackets came out, you're like, I think 6 of the 8 and Omaha could be the SEC. Now it's 3 max. That's assuming Auburn and LSU get wins and they're hosting regionals. My only thing about it is, and I'm not going to give Danny Cannell any credit or nod to him, but I do think that the SEC was so dominant in the RPI, and hey, upsets happen. That's why we watch sports. If the favorite wins every time, we wouldn't watch. We wouldn't watch if the best team won every single game. We would just know who the best team was and watch a movie. That's all. So upsets happen, and this year is a lot of upsets. But I do think college baseball needs to take a look at this. Maybe the RPI is a little, I'm not going to say biased towards the SEC, but the RPI constructed in a way where you're overweighting maybe Power 4 leagues that play the Power 4 teams every weekend. But I would just look at how the RPI formula is, and it might deserve some tweaks.
I'm with you. And I'll also say that I hate it for the league because, it's not a great look. It's not. It's a bad look. We just
poor.
Alabama
was a part of it. Alabama
was the worst part of it. We're the only team that didn't make it to Sunday.
And because of the upset in Nashville, you find a way to win the Hattiesburg Regional. You're hosting Louisville. You're hosting Louisville with a chance to go play in the College World Series.
Miami
beat Southern Miss, though. Southern Miss choked it too. Yeah. Miami was the 3 seed there, barely making it in. But Miami's a baseball blue blood. To me, it's like, hey, when Oklahoma's down in football, you know what they can do? Beat Alabama. Yeah. When Alabama's down, prior to Saban, believe it or not, this used to happen. Alabama was down. You better lace them up because they're still pretty good. We just talked about those 04 and 05 defenses. The offense was dreadful, but the defense was the real deal even then because blue bloods tend to have dudes.
All right, that's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.